I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Global Book Network, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most demanding and often misunderstood professions, surgery. The name of the book we're taking a look at today is called A Moth to the Flame, A Surgeon's Journey. It's written by a terrific author, a terrific man, a terrific doctor. His name is James K. Elsey, and he shares gripping true stories and life lessons from 4 decades on the front lines of medicine. This eye-opening memoir exposes the personal costs, emotional strain, and inner strength required to save lives every single day. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Looking forward to it as well. It is really amazing what surgeons in particular do day in and day out. Stick their hands into a bloody person and sew together pieces of tissue and blood vessels. In your case, you're a vascular surgeon, and give people life. Um, Doctors are sometimes accused of having a God complex, but when life and death decisions do ride on your hands, it's almost hard to avoid in some cases, don't you think?
Well, yeah, there's no question about it. Not all of it is so high focused and, a minute by minute life or death. A lot of it's routine, right? But there are these periods of time where, you're on the edge and the patient's on the edge. And it requires a certain belief in yourself, if you will, that you are the person that can fix this. Because if you don't believe that you are that guy in that room who needs to be there, who can fix this, that patient's in trouble. So that breeds a degree of arrogance, I think, and I think sometimes that gets transmitted. It's certainly, I've never met a surgeon yet that wasn't egotistical. I haven't met that guy, right? But at the same point in time, it's something that does not do well if you don't have it blended with some humility, because it is a very demanding, unforgiving field, and there are a lot of landmines, and a lot of things don't go as well as you expect them to, despite the fact that you try as hard as you can. So it's a combination of arrogance and humility, and in the middle there, you get the right breed of ego that allows you to carry on.
You've got to believe you can do it. You've
You
got
have
to
to.
feel like you're the best person for the job.
You
Like you
have to.
said, as soon as you don't think you are, you're not only lost, your patient is lost.
Right.
The manual dexterity that is involved in being a surgeon, I think, is pretty remarkable. How did you know you had that manual dexterity to, stitch, cut, work on blood vessels like you did?
I just, as I went through training, and from the beginning to the end, early on, I just realized that it came natural for me. I mean, nothing I did. It was a God-given talent, just like a Paul McCartney can pick up a guitar without being able to read music and just play a guitar, or a magnificent opera singer can just play and sing an operetta, right? It's just something that came natural to me, and it was easy for me to do. And I really, I could watch an operation once and do it. And I also had this, I guess I knew that I had a gift for it. And, believe me, lots of surgeons out there have gifts for this. I'm not the only universal person, but I could hear stitches when I threw them. And I could hear a stitch when it was right, and I could hear a stitch when it was wrong. And I knew that that was not normal. And so I guess just through doing it, finding out, yeah, this is something I can do that I didn't have to work at. Surgery is there are a lot of people want to be surgeons but don't have the skill, right? And some of the most miserable people I've ever met were in surgery that just struggled every day. And the most relaxed I was in the universe, in the world, in my life, was I was in the operating room operating on something that was really significantly bad that I needed to save. And my heart rate slowed down, and it just became a natural event. I can't explain that. I guess nobody can explain stuff like that. It was a God-given talent that I appreciated, and I tried to use it for the best I could.
Yeah, yeah. You were in your realm. That's what it comes down to. I
Exactly.
mean, You and
Exactly.
I were chatting before. I was a news reporter. I'd come back from assignment all day long, reporting live, interviewing victims and all of that. And I'd be fine. I'd be happy. I'd be talking to people. Some reporters would come in shaking and crying at the end of their shift. So
Right.
some people can do it and it's natural and it's no skin off my back. Other
Right.
people, it's like throwing their whole world into it to try to do it. And those people who have to really, really try hard, unfortunately, are not very good at it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
If no matter what degree skill, whether you're a Tiger Woods or you're a me at golf, which is I'm miserable, is that you got to work at it,
Yeah.
right? But if you have a skill and you have a natural ability, well, then work really makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Let's talk about the title of your book, A Moth to the Flame. What's that all about?
Well, it's descriptive of my love for the field, right? You know, a moth has this natural, unavoidable attraction to light. That's what they do, right? They're going to search out light. I absolutely, completely, totally loved, and you might say addicted to surgery. I
Yeah.
couldn't wait to get to the operating room in the morning, and and I really, quite honestly, was hesitant to leave in the evening. And
Mhm.
I was the guy that they would call if they had somebody downstairs at 6 o'clock at night on Friday because they knew I'd come. I was the guy that cruised the emergency rooms and the floors looking for surgery, not because I needed to make money. I was well remunerated for it. I just loved doing it. So I just had this natural affinity to want to do it. Number one, it came relatively easy for me. I loved doing it. I liked the atmosphere in the operating room, and I had a natural skill that translated into making a whole lot of people better. And I just, I just wanted to do it all the time. So I was a moth to the flame, right? In a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, very, very cool. Great analogy.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your accomplishments as a surgeon. Is there one surgery or one patient or one case that really stands out to you when you look back over the course of your 4 decades as a surgeon?
There was one, and it sort of changed the way I looked at it. When I came out of Emory, I was a highly skilled, somewhat cool technician. And I'm not by cool person, but I was sort of cold. I was a technician, and that was my skill set. The technical part of surgery came easy for me. And I didn't give much thought about anything else. Really, I loved to operate. I want to take good care of people, I want to be right good to them and all, but it was a technical experience. Well, one day, about 2 or 3 years into my career, a young 18-year-old boy shows up on Friday night. I was on call, who had gotten a little altercation at McDonald's and was stabbed through the subclavian artery, which is the artery right underneath the clavicle here. And he comes in drunk, shocked, and obnoxious and trying to die on me.
Mm.
Well, I handled him with all the empathy of a cold technician. All right. Now I'm just being honest. I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Get Fixed him up, saved his life, big operation, but I was trained to do it.
Yeah.
And over 6 weeks, got him out of the hospital and home, and I never saw him again. And I didn't think anything about it either. Right.
Mm.
And about 10 years later, his wife sends me a letter. And in the letter, she says, Dr. Elsey, I know you don't remember, you don't know me, but you probably don't remember this young man who came in drunk and all this, and you saved his life. Well, let me tell you what happened to him. And she said, after you saved his life, it changed his life. And he went back to school, got his GED, became religious, joined a church, and joined the Marine Corps. All right. And he was sent out to Afghanistan. And one time his patrol was ambushed, and all the senior guys in the patrol were killed. And it was him and just a bunch of privates. And he rose to the occasion and saved the group's lives in
Mm.
some kind of flanking maneuver that he was taught. Well, back when he was at his medal award ceremony, he was giving a talk and he said, "Look, guys, I'm not a hero. I was doing just what I was told to do. I was scared to death, just like you guys were. But the hero is a surgeon back in my town
Wow.
who saved my life so I could save yours."
Mm.
And I thought, my goodness, Lord, I hadn't thought about this. And so what I took home from that, and it changed the way I practice and it changed the way I approach people, is that not only can you save lives, but you can change lives.
Yeah.
And there's very few people that get a chance to do that. And this is what I teach to my medical students today. This ain't the cheap seats. This is a real different kind of profession like the ministry or something such as that. And you can actually change lives. So it's not a job. This is something bigger than that. So that case changed my life.
It's amazing. It almost gives me chills. It's amazing how you can impact so many other lives by
Oh
saving
yeah,
this
right.
one's man's
Yeah,
life. It reminds me of, if you've ever seen the film It's a Wonderful Life,
I have.
George Bailey saves his brother from drowning. And
Right.
then his brother goes over in World War II and saves an entire battalion of men
It's the
on
same
a
story.
fighter.
Same.
Yeah, on a freighter rather, because he was a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing. You saved that man so he could save, dozens of others.
And I had never thought about the
Yeah,
impact that I was having. It was quite honestly, I'll just be honest, it was one technical exercise after another because that's what I
right.
was good at, right? And
Yeah,
I was sort of trained to be that way, actually.
right,
Sort of
right.
trained to be that way. And then I said, man, this is a bigger deal than just
Yeah.
putting vessels together. This is a bigger deal. I can actually change people, the way people live, what they go off to do, and impact other people's lives. So that changed the way I looked at it.
Great. That's great. Um, and I can understand why you're taught to be a technician and to
Yeah,
be quote unquote cold about it because you can't be panicking there either. You can't be
that's
that
right.
empathetic towards a person who's bleeding out. You've got
Right.
one mission, and that's to close the wound,
Right.
to do whatever you can to save his life.
Yes, sir.
You were in the profession, you're still in the profession, but you were, an active surgeon for decades.
Yes, sir.
How has the profession changed? I know a lot of my friends who are doctors complain about the Medical Records Act, that it's reduced them to typists.
Right.
But I imagine you've seen other things like that. It's become extremely litigious as well. Talk to us about the changes in being a surgeon since you first began.
Yeah, when I came into surgery, I guess I came in during a great time when had a lot of autonomy. It wasn't about making money. Of course, I made money. I'm not going to tell you I didn't make money. I did. But it wasn't what I thought about. And we worked for ourselves. We ran our own businesses. We were appreciated. Nobody wants to be lionized, but we were appreciated. The biggest thing that I have seen, there's been a lot of changes, but the one thing that I think has changed medicine the most is the corporatization of it. Medicine has become corporatized, right? And in that, they're running it very similar. When I say corporatized, what does that mean? It means that they have a shareholder that they are responsible for, right? And they run it as a profit-centric business. Their job, and they're not bad people. They're not bad
Right,
people at all, but they're taught in business school. This is the way you run a business, right?
right.
And how do you run a business? Well, the business of business is business, right? And our job is to create shareholder equity. That's our job. And medicine has never been that way. It's never been that way. And basically, it's now a profit-centric business, right? Doctors are looked at as commodities. Patients are looked at as P&L statements. Efficiencies of scale are put in. Things are changed to run the most remunerative service and decrease the least. And they're running it like a company that would make a refrigerator, right? And the corporate cold B scale methods of running a company to make refrigerators or other commodities work great, right? But they don't are not applicable to taking care of human beings. They don't work with human nature, and they don't work with working with physicians and nurses and people that need you and the changes that go on and all the elements that go into a patient's illness and his recovery. And the cold-hearted business principles of commodity production are not effective or as effective as they can be in the way we used to do things, right? Now, I'm not just saying that we don't need business principles and people looking at things and doing purchasing and everything, but it's created a medical industrial complex, if you will, of hospitals, insurance companies, big pharma, corporations, equity firms. And, a lot of people think it's the new, it's the new steel, oil, and everything. It's where
Yeah.
the corporate raiders in the 1930s, now they're 1900s, now they're attacking medicine. So that I think that's the biggest thing that I see that threatens our profession, and patients don't like it.
Well, it could be a dangerous trend because it sometimes leads to unnecessary testing,
Oh,
unnecessary
absolutely.
surgeries,
Absolutely.
unnecessary even follow-ups,
It's
you know,
corporate driven, right?
exactly,
It's
exactly. They
corporate
have
driven.
goals to meet.
We were never a profit centric business.
Right.
And we are forced to do that. And you're putting a square peg in a round hole, and it doesn't work. And I tell you, the people who are getting harmed by this are the patients, both with increasing prices, poor care, disjointed care, uh, inequitable care. You think a perfect example of how these cats work is that they take over a business and they say, okay, what are the most remunerative businesses? Well, the most remunerative businesses are infusion therapy, right? Cardiac and vascular, cardiovascular and infusion. That's who makes money for the hospital. Pediatrics does not.
Right.
So what they've done is they've gone through and markedly diminished or getting rid of their pediatric programs in these hospitals. Well, look what happened in the RSV epidemic just a year and a half ago. Families there were no hospital beds. They were taking poor children who couldn't breathe miles and miles and miles away to trying to find care. Well, that doesn't work. It's, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
corporatization
it's a
is,
dangerous trend.
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your book and why you wrote it and what you hope people learn from it and what you hope they understand about a surgeon's life.
Yeah. Well, I read the book originally for three reasons. One is I wanted to let my children know where I was for 38 years. Okay. And they still love me, thank God, but I was not around. I'll just be
Yeah.
honest. That's
Yeah.
just a fact. Number two, I wrote it to educate the lay public on what surgery is all about. Everybody crosses paths with a surgeon somewhere, sometime, someplace.
Hmm.
Some of it's minor, some of it's pretty catastrophic. And people are afraid of it. It's opaque, it's mystical, it's frightening, and they have no concept about it. And I wrote it to educate those people what surgery is all about. What is a surgeon? What is it? Who does this kind of stuff? How do they get there? How do they get trained? What do they go through? What are the sacrifices they do? What are the demands on them during the day? What are the thoughts that a surgeon has as he goes through his career? So, sort of humanize it. A good buddy of mine is the CEO of one of the big medical industrial complexes in Tennessee. And he says, Jim, you've humanized this. I mean, I run this dang system and I've never thought about it like you have laid it out. You humanize this for us. And then the third reason I wrote the book is for young people who are contemplating a career in surgery. To sort of say, okay, this is what the deal is. Okay, this is what it costs. This is the reason you should do this.
Right.
These are the things that you're going to have to sacrifice. And this is a life of sacrifice. And these are the highs, these are the lows, and this is down and dirty what it's like. And so that's the reason I wrote it.
I think it's super helpful, like you said, from anyone who's going to be a patient, and eventually we're all going to be patients,
Everybody's
to
going to be
people who
impacted.
are thinking about pursuing this as a career. It's a fascinating read. It's a fascinating look behind the surgeon's mask. Before we leave you today, I want to talk to you about one unusual honor in your career. And you and I were both in Atlanta in 1996 during the Olympics, but
Right.
you were running, carrying a torch. How
Yeah.
did that come about, and what was that moment in your life like?
Well, let me tell you, that was, I still get goosebumps thinking about that. I've had a lot of awards and accolades in medicine. I've been on a lot of boards and things, and some honor, some earned and some not, right? Like we all have. But I tell you, when I was at Grady Hospital training in Atlanta, I was sort of a buckhead boy. I had been brought up in privilege and affluence, and I had never been exposed to the underbelly of society. I just had never been exposed to it. And I saw real deprivation, right? I saw things that you shouldn't see, and did things that you shouldn't do, you know? And one of the things that I saw was a lot of child abuse,
Mm.
a whole lot of child abuse. And gosh, I didn't even know that existed, quite honestly. But I saw it up front and operated on it. I took care of it. And I told myself that if I ever got to a place where I could do something about this, I would. So when I started practice, despite the fact I was still a cold technician until I met that Marine, um, a group of people in town was starting a child abuse organization in town. And so I joined it and I became very engaged in it, learned all about it, got to be on the board of Georgia Child Abuse Association, started a child abuse home, started a inner city tutoring program, and started a child scholarship program with Gordon College. And I didn't do it for any reason except it was something I promised myself I would do. Well, it gained some notoriety, and that's how I got to run the torch.
Amazing, amazing. Well, you certainly earned that honor and did great work with the children of Atlanta and the metro Atlanta area who are suffering from abuse. It certainly is an eye-opening profession, your work as a surgeon, and it certainly is an eye-opening book. The name of the book we've been discussing today is named A Moth to the Flame, A Surgeon's Journey. It is a compelling and candid look into the highs and heartbreaks of life in the operating room. Jim, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, sir, for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation.
I enjoyed speaking with you as well. I appreciate your insight and your wisdom. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.